We're glad you can join us again. Security and Exchange Commission says the commission is working to ensure it reduces the level of unclaimed dividend to 0%. In an interactive session with editors recently in Lagos, you could have said that unclaimed dividend rose to 180 billion as of December last year. According to him, while 180 billion unclaimed dividend is a large amount, it constitutes only 5% of the quantum of dividends declared in the entire capital market. He also said that SEC is working with the Central Security Clearance System, CSCS, and other stakeholders in the industry to address the issue of unclaimed dividends. While for further analysis, Mrs. Ofonime Ekwere is an investment banker with over 15 years of experience in share registration and other capital market transactions. She is currently the head of capital market operations, Edge Field Capital Management Limited. He joins us via the phone now. Thank you for your time, madam. We appreciate you.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so talk to us about this unclaimed dividend, whether it's a myth or reality, because a lot of people are saying, look, how can we have a figure huge as this in the first place without being claimed? Now, what do you think is responsible?
Okay, thank you for this opportunity to have a say in the issue of unclaimed dividend. Let's also even start from before we start talking, let's even allow the public, because I still believe that a greater percentage of the general public, most people don't even know what we call dividend. What is dividend? What is dividend? Before we now start talking about the dividend that is yet to be claimed, which is called unclaimed dividend.
Talk
so
to
we
us
look
about
at
it.
dividend as that part of company profits, mostly quoted companies, company profit that is approved by the board of directors to be distributed to its investors according to the number of shares that is being held by the investors. How do we mean? Is by way of lending money to the company for them to run their business, and at the end of the financial year, the company is expected to pay back to the investors, and this is called dividend. So in this dividends it is always issues that all the investors cannot get their own share of dividends that is being sent to them. We take it back to let's even talk about the root cause of this issue. So we now take it back to the legacy issues in the capital markets. When we talk about data management in the capital markets in the time past, it was, I would say it was at a zero level, because you hardly can track the number of shares, the processes that were involved in transferring of shares from one person to the other. Manual process, which we all know was a no-no, is a no-no compared to where we are now. So those manual processes affected a lot of things. And because of that, those dividends in the time past came in the form of checks. We call it dividend warrants. And they had to be posted by our conventional postal services. So the investors at various locations in the country, some we even have foreign investors. So the challenges of getting across to these investors for them to make claim of the dividend that is due to them was a very big challenge in the time past. And because of that, most of those investors were unable to claim their dividends. We even have some that were able to, the process, we were able to reach to them. However, before we can get to them, it's obvious two things will happen. There is a time that is valid for these dividend warrants to be acceptable into their bank account. And that time is 6 months. So after 6 months, it is said that the dividend warrant is staged. So before most of these dividend warrants get to the investors, it's already staged. The process of revalidating the dividend warrants is another thing entirely. So most of the time, these investors will not even want to go through it, and by the time they try it, some will try it, and it will not be so seamless, and they will just abandon it. That still creates more room to unclaim dividend. And some that will get to them is sometimes they don't have the knowledge of how to transfer, of how to convert the paper warrants into money to get value for their investment. And that will be led just in the house or in the cabinet. Some will collect it because of the knowledge of what it shares that they don't even know what it means, and they will just keep it in the houses. You get to some houses and you see these things being littered about. Some don't know what to use it for. Some don't know what it means.
Yes, sir. So let me quickly come in here. I mean, you've raised you've raised key issues here. One, it's about the issue of the processes of collection, claiming those dividends, which of course after 6 months it become invalid, and you have to go through a lot of processes to reactivate them. That's one. The second one is about education. So who is in charge of education? Who should educate investors, on claiming? That's one. Is it SEC or which of the body? Then, of course, let's first talk about the processes of collection now. So how do we make this process seamless? Since we are not dealing with the old way of, claiming them, conventionally, or the old way of claiming this dividend, how do we make the process, seamless? Isn't something we need to begin to talk about?
Yeah, actually, from the responsibility of investors' education lies with the regulators, the SEC, and I think that is one of their key responsibility, educating the investors on the capital market issues, and which also include the claiming of their returns on investments, of which dividend is one of it.
Okay, so the process of course, collection is what I'm talking about now. Once after 6 months it becomes invalid, then of course you have to start. So do we, one wonders if it's impossible to create a system that you can have this dividend, paid into the investors' account directly without having to use, postal services and all of that. So what about, bringing in such a structure in place?
Yeah, you're right. I was checking it from the time pass.
Okay.
The root cause of the unclaimed dividend, of which this is just one of it. There are so many other things that cause it. So, but at this point, the technology era, things have changed. With introduction of the e-dividend by the regulators as at 2015, the dividend warrant is a thing of the past. So we no longer print dividend warrants in the industry. So at this point in time, each investor is to mandate the account to their bank, submit your bank details to the registrar that is in charge of any of the shares that you happen to be an investor, the company that you happen to be an investor. So on the day of dividend payments, you are getting your dividends straight into your bank account. So that has been taken care of by the Apex regulators. That is already running. However, we are still, when it comes to the area of education, we still need to do more to get it down to the grassroots of the investors, what they need to do to send their e-dividends, process it through their bank or through the registrar, to be able to claim their past or outstanding dividend and then subsequent dividend in the future. This is already in place as we speak.
Okay, then can we now, can we begin to talk about how to integrate, because we still have outstanding of over 180 billion naira unclaimed as at December last year. So the fund now, how would these investors claim this amount of money? And should investors fail to claim it, so where is the fund going to? On a lighter note.
Okay, like I've said, there is what we call investors education, and the apex regulators are not taking back in that. They are actually doing much on that, having different investors forum to educate investors on this, on how to claim their dividends. They have put up the investors portal, the e-dividend portal. As at now, you can go to the e-dividend portal on the SEC website, and there you will be able to check if you have any outstanding dividend in the market. You can check for your loved ones. You can check for your family members, your deceased family members, or those that are still alive. So that is one of the things that is being done to reduce the load of the dividend, outstanding dividend, unclaimed dividend in the markets. So we also talk about one other thing that we should look at presently. Like I said before, that aside from the process of claiming dividend, there are other things that affect and cause this high increase of unclaimed dividend. One of them is that there is a rule in the market that after a particular time, the dividend is being declared status bar. And I look at it personally, this is 12 years after the dividend has been issued. And after 12 years, when it is not claimed, it is declared status bar. But at this point, I look at it that why do we make it a 12 years of a thing? Because if I look at like the deceased family member, the children may have been still very young. And in Nigeria, we know that the law permits them to be of age when they get to 18. And by 12, we are already saying that what belongs to their father or mother cannot be claimed. I look at it in that angle that status bar should be extended at least to the age of, or to the years of 19 or 20. Even though the child was a baby at birth or at then, by then is of age to do what he's supposed to do, to make claim. Then another thing is that most of these disease members, which is one of the things that still increase the unclaimed dividend, the issue of estate administration, but it's before they will be able to go through this process is so cumbersome.
Okay. Let me quickly come in. Yes. Let me. Now,
hello.
Let me quickly jump in. Pardon me to jump in here.
Okay.
Let's look at the role of the listed companies. Of course, they bought into a company. So what's the role in ensuring that they follow up with their, the shareholders in ensuring that they get the dividend? That is number one. Number two, for those whose, parents or, who the parents or the investors have their, those who are deceased, let me put it that way. Those who are deceased, for instance, is their position in the company transferable to their loved ones, their children, or those who they left behind?
Yes, it is transferable. Like I was trying to say that though the process of doing this transfer is somehow cumbersome. So if these processes are being streamlined and it becomes seamless, and secondly, the cost is involved. Most of the time, you may have some deceased members of the family that they share, they have the entire what is available, what they want to claim is not actually up to 100,000 or 50,000, and they will spend so much in the estate administration in terms of getting the letter of administration from the courts and all those stuff, and getting to the registrars, paying transport from here to there to do one thing or the other. And by the time they get to discover that the cost of getting this is actually more than what they are going to claim, most of them will abandon it, and that will keep on increasing, adding to the number of unclaimed dividends. So at this point, we are looking at it that if this processes could be made seamless, then I actually look at it having a kind of threshold. There should be a limit that the company or the registrar or who is involved should be able to take a risk that a shares of 20,000 will not just cure the company. If I have provided my next of kin or my father has made me his next of kin and he passes on, there are some threshold that we could say that, okay, let us handle it at the level of the next of kin that was provided by the investor, instead of going for everything you must pass through, whether it is 1 unit or 100,000 units, you have to pass through estate administration process, which is very, very cumbersome presently.
But is there a role a company can play? For instance, the listed companies that these people bought into?
The company should have the data of their investors. They should be able to reach out to their investors from time to time. They should be able to post the list of unclaimed dividend of their companies on their website, so that if I am an investor in a particular company, if I get to their website, I should be able to see it. I should be able to check some things. Other people should be able to check it, and then that could add to the information that is open to the public for them to know and then lay claim of the unclaimed dividends.
Okay. Well, I think we'll have to leave it there. I mean, now people can now know how to lay claim, to their dividends, and of course go about the processes of claiming over 180 billion naira unclaimed dividend. Thank you so much, Ofonime Ekwere. He's Head Capital Market Operations, Edgefield Capital Management Limited. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Still to come after the break, oil edged up Wednesday, a day after it fell through $100 per barrel. For the first time since April, while traders looked towards U.S. inflation data that could weaken the market. Well, we'll bring you details after this time. Please stay with us.